Looking at a map of Maine, it's impossible not to notice the large green rectangle that sits sandwiched between the rivers and lakes smack in the middle of northern part of the state. The small rectangle is deceptive. Within its shape are more than 200,000 acres of the wildest and most spectacular terrain in New England. A paradise for hikers, Baxter State Park is a premier destination for outdoor enthusiasts. The unquestioned crown jewel, this centerpiece of Baxter State Park, is Katahdin. Katahdin, the highest mountain in Maine, dominates this remote wilderness. The mountain, being a mile above sea level, towers above the comparatively low Maine lakes and forests. In the Penobscot Indian language, Katahdin means the greatest mountain, and it would be hard to find a natural feature more accurately named. The great peak lords over the surrounding countryside for miles around. The Penobscot Indians feared the mountain, believing it to be the home of the storm god Pamola, who would wreak vengeance on those foolhardy enough to venture onto its slopes. To this day, those who venture onto its heights are likely to experience Pamola's wrath, for at these latitudes in northern Maine, the weather worsens rapidly with altitude and can change radically in just a few hours. The mountain has claimed 19 lives since 1963. Katahdin, the name of perhaps the single most outstanding peak in all the Appalachians. It is a magic word for Appalachian trail hikers who walk more than 2,000 miles to reach it, and to hikers in search of truly rugged mountain majesty. Rugged, rocky, and raw, the massive peak leaves nearby summits in its shadow, while intoxicatingly luring countless visitors to its dizzying heights. A hike to Katahdin's summit instills memories that last a lifetime. However, the mountain must be approached with respect. The physical and natural challenges of its climb must not be underestimated. Katahdin is arguably the most strenuous hike in New England, and its weather is unforgiving. Approach this mountain with ample preparation and caution, and the reward will be strikingly beautiful vistas and a tremendous sense of accomplishment. My pack felt pretty good for the long 3.3 miles to Chimney Pond. My legs felt okay. The bunkhouse at Chimney Pond was small, clean, neat, and most importantly, weathertight. A 12-foot square kitchen, the main room, contained a small plastic table pushed against the wall and a small black iron stove. A walk-in closet-sized bedroom flanked each end. Each had two triple-decker plywood-decked bunk beds. I selected the top bunk. After dark, we broke out our candle lanterns. Over a half-dozen lights glowed in the freshly varnished picnic table. A bunch of guys got an active card game going. Later, I found the top bunk tight and cramped. My elbow tapped the ceiling when I turned over. Perhaps an hour after hitting the sack, one of the guys loudly announced that a moose was in front of the shelter. I was all moosed out for the day and didn't move at all. The next morning, after routine, now standard breakfast, the weather gave me an unpleasant surprise. Raw wind-blown fog and low visibility, even at the bunkhouse, didn't look too good. A really bad sign. I didn't know what to do. I was ready, but the big mountain was not. I waited. The weather didn't change. I slowly accepted my situation. I could stay the night in the bunkhouse and hope for improved conditions The next morning I awoke to a great day. Bright sun with blue sky above. The summit high above the steep wall basin supported a single large white cloud. The cabin was filled with busy sounds. Everybody was active, getting ready for the long-awaited push to the top. I could feel the anticipation all around, in me and in others. After forcing down the traditional oatmeal breakfast, I made a few last-minute checks in my day packing gear. I took a pair of photographs while standing on the bunkhouse doorstep. The Saddle Trail starts at Chimney Pond in the middle of the Great Basin. It is an incredibly scenic and popular campsite located at the base of the mountain. This trail climbs through birch and spruce forests, up rocky footing to more scrub-like growth towards an awesome natural phenomenon called the Saddle Slide. The slide came down in 1893 and now offers the hikers some great scrambling. Midway up the Saddle Trail, the trail rises at angles that vary between 60 and 80 degrees. Scrambling up the pink granite pillars of the landslide is challenging, even intimidating. Blue blazes mark the path and must be followed carefully. Then I signed the register and headed up the Saddle Trail. I had the trail pretty much to myself. At this point, my confidence that I would reach the summit started to rise. There was about a 50-50 chance that the summit would offer either winter conditions consisting of strong cold winds and fog or bright sun. I was yet to see what was ahead. Heavy clouds rolled off the summit ridge. When I reached the base of the slide, my confidence suddenly took a severe but not fatal blow. A jumble of raw, loose granite chips and irregular-shaped boulders rose amazingly steeply and then disappeared beneath an ominous dark gray cloud almost directly ahead. This cliff would rattle the nerves of most people, I thought. On my right, truck-sized boulders were neatly stacked to form a well-weathered, irregular, cracked, protective wall. It was coated with day-glow green lichen. On my left, the saddle was filled with truck-sized rocks scattered about. The scrub that popped out here and there, mostly near the bottom, had already turned to its fall colors of orange and yellow. There was a great view behind me of the Katahdin lakes, Chimney Pond, and a thin line of the trail. To my left, Pomola and the chimney silhouetted under wisps of clouds. The light blue blazes on the clean granite continued to lead straight up as I followed. At some places the trail was so steep that the walking stick got in the way. I would carefully place it on top of some rocks above my head and then use my two hands to pull myself up to it. The deep saddle provided some protection from the chilling wind, but I realized what conditions could be awaiting for me when I reached the open ridge for the final push to the summit. The slide ended surprisingly abruptly into a flat, windswept tableland. The final half mile to the summit is a steep slope over an open, Arctic-like environment called the tableland. This area is strewn with boulders and highly exposed to the weather. Dense, dark green scrub, most about 2 feet tall, covered it on one side. Thin, dried, brown grass covered the other side of the well-marked footpath. The gravel path was lined on each side by a string of stones, accented periodically by cairns. A cold wind blew into my face. At this point, I put on my shiny new bright red Gore-Tex parka. As I slipped my arms into it, it felt as if it contained an electric heater turned up full, pressing against my back. Now I could face the mountain air with relative impunity. However, there were no guarantees yet. The summit ahead was still draped in a layer of sometimes white, sometimes gray clouds. These appeared to push back slowly as I approached. The nice friendly path disappeared, replaced by an invisible path over jagged talus marked by heavy cairns. The clouds had moved up, but could I actually see the summit yet? At the intersection of the cathedral and saddle trails, the grade leveled off abruptly again. My legs felt pretty good. My face wore a smile of excitement. However, at that point, I stepped into a thick, cold, wind-blown fog. Hoarfrost had crystallized on the backside of each cairn, forming 1-inch thick layer plates. Each of the small clumps of grass was laden with a layer of white ice. Finally the summit. Several other hikers appeared from every which way, but nobody stayed long, even though most had winter gear. Gusts lifted flakes of hoarfrost into the air. My handwriting in my logbook was getting more difficult with my cool, mittened hands. I snacked and waited for about 20 minutes for a moment of intermittent sunshine to expose the remainder of my film. I felt great. The sun came in and out, but the raw wind seldom quit for more than a couple of seconds. It was strong. I dilly-dallied for a long time, enjoying every moment. Again, I couldn't absorb what this really is like. Truly awesome. I could see forever in every direction. Now it was getting late. I would have to charge down. Double timing it down to the tableland was easy. The steady wind blew directly into my face, cooling my cheeks and my eyes. Soon I was at the edge of the tableland, about to dive straight down the slide. It looked as if 100 huge dump trucks had dumped their loads off the end of a vertical cliff. Here I go, I explained, as I took my first few steps down. Down at the bottom of the rock pile, I noted how helpful my walking stick had been. It turned me into a sure-footed mountain goat. Its rubber foot had gripped the granite so well, now looked so worn, beat up, like it had been through World War II.